Welcome back to the VMSports Cast. Another big game we have is Westaco going to the Black Hole against Edcal Chelsea. Tell me about the Jackets tonight.
Well, I mean, a huge advantage for the Yellow Jackets, it's already that they're going to be at home. They went into Westaco last year and they took advantage of some muddy conditions to be able to control Mishak Rivas at the time of junior. They took control of the game and, they came away with a victory. It's a different EE team. Every year it seems that they're ranked #1 in the preseason polls, number one. This year it's Westaco. And I was talking to Coach Joe Solis yesterday, and he told me that he told his players, you know what, you're not the #1 team anymore. Westaco's #1 team. You have to go out and earn that #1 spot if that's what you want. So they're using that as motivation. They're using the fact that we as sports writers, as the media, don't see them as the #1 team anymore. We see someone else. In their eyes, they think they're still the best team in the Valley, and who's gonna argue with them, really? They still have that Valley record of regular season games won, which now stands at 37, and they're putting that on the line against a team, a very good team in Westaco, the #1 team in the Valley, at this moment. So there's going to be a lot of different factors that play into EE and how successful they're going to be. I think the biggest one, though, is going to be how well Ronnie Galpano can run with the ball. He had a 1,000-yard sophomore season, then he kind of just fell out of the face of the earth as a junior, mostly due to injuries. But he's back, and he wants to redeem himself. And he wants to show that he can run for 1,000, maybe 2,000 yards. He got off to a good start against PI. He had 90 yards rushing, a couple of touchdowns, and I think if he can continue that trend, if he can continue to run the ball as effectively as he did against PI, I think Westaco's going to be in for a long night. Tell me a little bit about Westaco. I mean, everybody knows about Mishak. What else do they have out there?
Well, first thing I want to get out of the way is some people are saying Westaco doesn't look too good in their scrimmages. That's what scrimmages are for, to get the kinks out, to work, to get the reps. I don't buy anything of as far as them being not good because of scrimmages. Sure. But this is a big game for Westaco also. Last year they bookended the season with losses, and one of them was EE. The other one was at Los Fresnos at home. So, I mean, this is a game they want to win. They want to be the ones to end the streak. And while they do have Mishak Rivas, 2,000-yard rusher, they also have a few other backs that can get the ball. And then they got a great quarterback in Dylan De Leon, the junior. So, Coach Tony Villarreal, he's confident. He's not overconfident, but I think he believes that this team can do it, that they can win. And they're the consensus #1, all 3 papers in the Valley. So until they lose, they're gonna stay there. So I mean, I'm sure that's something they want to keep as well. But
how's the Westaco defense? There were some questions coming into the year.
That's not one of their listed strengths on paper. They gave up quite a few yards, but when I talked to Coach Tony before the season, they kind of retooled the defense. They got more position coaches to focus on each position on defense, being the D-line, linebacker, secondary. So that's something that they're really excited about. They have a good secondary, and they got a fast defense, probably one of the fastest defenses in the Valley. Is that going to translate into stopping other teams? Who knows? But they got Jerry Espinosa back there, who was one of the fastest guys in the Valley. Yeah. And they got Mando Del Toro at linebacker, another speedy guy. So, they got the speed, they have the athleticism, but now they got to go out and stop people. And this is their first test this week.
And it's not the big game per se, EE Mercedes, but it's still a mid-valley rivalry. Westaco Edcal. There's so many things that are adding to the hype of this game. In our most recent poll, we got Westaco 1 and EE 2 now, so that kind of sets up the matchup of 1 versus 2. Westaco has on their coaching staff Gabe Peña, who was a Port Isabel player in the early 80s when they held the record of 29 straight games. So there's just so many things that come into play at this big game that just adds to it, adds to the intensity of the game. Who's your pick?
I'm gonna have to go with La Máquina, man. I mean, they got it at home. They got the 37-game winning streak. It won't. If they do win, in my opinion, they won't win by much. Westaco's they're gonna show up to play. This is their first game of the year. They're anxious. They got talent. So I say EE close. Real close game. How about you?
But I think Ed Chelsea is going to make it 38 in a row this week. You know, there's just so much emotion, so much intensity, so much electricity into this game, and you know, I think it's one of those games where they can win, and it'll serve as a springboard to the rest of the season. You know, I mean, it's hard to see anybody else in district beating Ed Chelsea. Maybe Mercedes, maybe Mission, but they've all had, you know, tough losses in week 0. So you know, it's hard to see them getting beat. They have a non-district game against South San Antonio, but...
All right, a couple other big games we have is La Feria's traveling to Mercedes, take on the Tigers. Some of us call this the County Line Bowl. Mercedes is going to look to get back on track. You know, I think it's going to be a good game. Mercedes lost to Hidalgo last week. Pretty disappointed. You know, Alex Trevino, when he wasn't running, he was catching. He had over 100 yards. Albert Chavez, as we touched on in the other video, had 200 yards passing. So it's going to be a big test for La Feria's defense, and then we'll see if the Lions can air it out this week. Another good game we have is McAllen at South.
Yeah, it's a rematch of last year. Obviously a season opener, but last year they played twice. They played the season opener that South should have won. They lost 31-27. They had a few just mental breakdowns. It was their first game of the year. They had a fumble return for a touchdown at the end of the first half that kind of just turned everything around. Instead of being a 14-14 game, it was a 21-7 game. So, you know, South has to look out for that. You know, McAllen already has one game under their belts. They took care of business against Porter. They're going to come in here with revenge on their minds. You know, they won last year in the opener, but South kicked them out of the playoffs pretty much.
Yeah, that's right.
So they're coming in with revenge. You know, on the other side, South, you know, they're looking to kind of start the Alan Cherry era off on a good note. You know, they're running the ball a little more than they were last year under Jim Helms, but still, I think South is going to be able to air it out a little bit more this week. They got Sean Messick back there, our preseason All-Valley pick. He's probably one of the better quarterbacks in the Valley, and it's going to be up to him if South is going to win or lose this game. It's going to be up to how he handles himself, how he carries the team, if they can prevail. I'm going with South in this one. Who are you?
I'm also going with South. I think they got a little too much firepower for Mac High. Yeah. And I look for them to start off with a bang. The Alan Cherry, just like you said.
If we're to pick one player this week, you know, someone, maybe not in the games we talked about, just any other player, to have maybe our pre-pick for player of the week, who do you look at to have a big game this week?
Off the top of my head, I like Joseph Vela, Real Hondo at Lyford. You know, in the 2 scrimmages, Vela was just amazing. He can tuck and run. He can throw also. The kid's a special athlete, and being that they didn't really get tested last week against East, I think Lyford will present a little more of a challenge, but I think they still should take care of business. But I do look for Joseph Vela to rack up the yards, passing and throwing.
I'm going to go with Mercedes quarterback Albert Chavez. You know, he got his feet wet last week against Hidalgo in a loss, like we've talked before. He had a good game as far as games went. His 17 of 22 completions, 202 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and it happened late in the game. You know, it happened at a time when, you know, the game ends and the guy's just getting rolling. He can't wait to come back. You know, that kid wants to get back on the floor and lead the Tigers to a win against a rival like La Feria. You know, so I'm looking at him to kind of have maybe a breakout game. You know, maybe like I said about EE, you know, using their win to springboard. This might be able to push Mercedes in the right direction.
Well, that's the wrap-up for, actually that's the preview for Week 1's games. Hope you guys can get out there. It should be dry. Thanks for watching, and tune into the VMSports Cast next week, and we'll recap Week 1's games, have our Player of the Week, and we'll advance Week 2.